Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy and Frames pregame show this morning. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards, and we got a bunch of the Frames crew here from here and across the pond overseas. Let's start with you, Jonathan. How are things going with you over in jolly old England?
Yeah, not bad. Weather is absolutely disgusting today, so yeah, it's good to chat to you guys.
Perfectly jolly.
Not have to go outside.
How's the lettuce, Jonathan?
The Prime Minister or the
actual
the actual lettuce. I'm not worried about the former Prime Minister.
Yeah. Gotta give a shout out here to Les here. Man, you have been competing in some pretty impressive marathons lately. For those who don't know, Les, former service member or current service member, I don't remember off the top of my head. Former competed in the Marine Corps Marathon last week. So how was that, by the way?
Hey, it was. Hey, thanks for that, Jorge, and it's great to be back, y'all. It was fun. It was fun. I do not recommend doing a marathon without training for it. Long story short, I signed up for it in 2020, but it kept getting deferred because of COVID,
Right.
and I forgot that it was coming up. And I got the email saying the race is in next month, and I had to make a decision or not, and I just went with it. So, but thank you though.
Dude, that's fantastic. I remember one of my roommates, Ian Bell. He would always do marathons. He's a big avid runner. He would always train. He would get the Camelback thing and drink his water when he goes on his long runs and whatnot. And every year when we were living together, I'd get up after a night of partying. I'd get home like around 4 a.m. and then I'd go to sleep. I wake up like around noon, and he's walking in the door just twirling his medal around. He's like, "Yep, all right, I'm done for the day. Give me a Guinness," and that was that.
Good stuff.
But neither here nor there. Nate Markham, what's going on with you, man?
Not too much, fellas. Good morning, all. Jorge, just so you know, my W is better.
Because it ain't nothing to fuck with. Exactly.
Sorry, Commanders. They're on a winning streak. They're like they're only a couple wins away from getting to 6 as well, like Atlanta. Watch out. Hot teams on the rise. If we've know anything, Keith, is that they will get 5 wins after this week, and they won't win another game the rest of the season.
Ouch!
I mean, come on, don't you
Are we
see
talking
that
about the
happen?
Falcons or the Commanders? Which one are you talking about?
The Commanders aren't winning this week. Come on, that's crazy.
On Kirk Cousins' return to FedEx Field, come on, I don't know.
It's practically a primetime game. He's screwed.
I will say about that game, it is only a 3-point spread for the Vikings, which is shocking to me. I don't understand how, but I also don't understand how Arizona's only a 2-point favorite. But that's just, maybe Seattle's better than I think. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. And speaking of Keith, how you doing, man? What's going on with you? Tell us a little bit about what's going on with you.
I'm trying to keep my dog from barking so he doesn't bust your guys' eardrums because he's, watching the window on an early Sunday morning. He's a jerk. So sorry, that's why you heard me mute my mic and run off screen was because I'm like, I don't think they want to hear my 11-pound dog barking at 9:30 in the morning. But good. Hopefully gonna have a big day for DFS and actually going to the Falcons game. Just found out about an hour ago in the suite too. So gonna be a good day.
You gotta document that.
For sure.
Document that. Send us some pics and videos. So as we do every week here, we're going to go through every single game, talk about all the fantasy football relevant players. While Keith's joining us, he's going to give us some good DFS picks from each game as we're going. And, of course, we're going to answer all of your start and sit questions. I didn't mess that up this time. That's good. We can't wait to help you get that W in week 9. Week 9, fellas, we're almost at week 10. Obviously, that comes after 9. But that's the Booger McFarland analysis right there. Crazy that this season is zooming by. I want it to slow down, but it's just crazy. And so, of course, if you've been on Twitter and you've been on our Facebook page and you've been on our Instagram page, which if you're not, you should follow all 3 on all 3 platforms. We have been giving you nonstop content all week and then all day yesterday, from all of our start and sit articles to our IDP start articles to our chasing upset articles for offense and IDP to Les's buy low and sell high articles to Keith and Joe's DFS picks for the week at Bargain medium, and expensive tier plays. I mean, however you want to absorb fantasy football content, we're providing it to you here. And of course, we're here with the Fantasy and Frames pregame show. So get those start and sit questions into us. We're here to help you out and get a victory this week. And with that, let's start, Keith, with your game. Let's start with the Atlanta Falcons right off the bat.
Division leading Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, excuse me. Exactly. Division leading Atlanta, which, by the way, that DJ Moore helmet call was BS last week. If those who don't know, he caught a touchdown pass and then he stepped out of bounds and then got flagged for taking off his helmet, which normally I thought that was supposed to happen when he's on the field of play, not outside of whatever. That not being the case. We're talking about the Falcons here and the Chargers. Any DFS plays where you're zeroing in on this week for this game?
Man, this is a treasure trove of DFS plays in this game. It should be one that if you're going to have multiple guys in it, this is the one. You have two defenses that can't stop what the other offense does really well. The Falcons literally cannot stop the pass, whether it be wide receiver, tight ends, quarterbacks. They're constantly top 10 for DFS or fantasy. In fact, the Falcons have allowed 5 of the 8 quarterbacks they face this year to score the most points that they have in a single game. Versus this, none of the quarterbacks have done worse than their third best performance of the year. And again, we're 8 weeks in. So be sure to have Herbert. You can take Eckler. You can get the bargain with, I really like both Palmer and Everett this week. And then on the other side, because Cordell is back, the Chargers are so bad against the run. They've given up over 700 yards in their last 5 games, which people forget because they were on a bye. They've also gave up 6 touchdowns in that time span. So whether it be Cordell, I don't necessarily hate Tyler Algier, but Patterson is the guy this week that I think he's going to have a huge game, and he won't be high on because I think people are going to be worried about how much is he going to play, what's the snap count going to be. Patterson's a gamer. When he plays, he plays. So I expect unless he has something early in the game where he has a setback with the injury, for him to get his normal 65% snap count. And man, against this defense with his speed, where Chargers really struggle tackling at that second level, they're worse in the league. I expect Patterson to bust a big one.
Before we get to DJ Duvernay's question on YouTube, I have a DFS question for you here, Keith.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler had been dealing with an abdominal injury for most of the week. Yesterday, he was declared to be active for the game. Is there any positive play here with Sony Michel as a potential cheap bargain play, or is he somebody that are you overthinking at that point, trying to get ahead of this Eckler potential reduced workload?
Well, I was going to say only because this week there's so many good running back plays in the 6,200 to 5,300 range, because you got guys like Dante Foreman, right, who's getting 30 touches a game. He's like 6,000. You've got the studs of Walker, Stevenson. These guys are around that 6,200 range. ETN 6,300. So I would rather not try to save the money at running back and play one of these guys who are very fairly priced this week, and instead, or Patterson, another guy, 5,800, and instead find the value at wide receiver, tight end, or quarterback, where I think there's better low tier plays, at those positions this week that they're going to get the ball. They're going to have opportunity. Where Sony, it's a question, and you're looking for a setback. And I actually like Eckler and Herbert as a stack this week in bigger fields, because I think people are going to be afraid to do that because of the cost. But I mean, one of the worst defenses in the league, and you get 2 of the most, best fantasy players in football. I'm going to roll with those guys and then try to have some cheaper lineups. That's going to be a couple of my bigger, like $3, 100,000 first 20 max entry plays, is trying to do some lineups with that.
You know what's interesting about that, Jorge? About the yardage. In 5 of the 7 games that the Chargers have played, the majority of their rushing like yards allowed have come off one play. They've allowed 50 plus yards breakaway run on every game on 5 of the 7 games. 50 yards, 75 yards, 75 yards. So it's really inflating that yards per attempt, but I'm not taking anything away from them. That just makes me wonder, is that Cordell Patterson? Is it a Tyler Algier breakaway run? Is it is it going to be one of the people who's going to get it? And because, I have Tyler Algier. It makes me wonder if I should start him. I don't want to, because last time Cordell Patterson came back from injury, what did he put up? 102 scores. So yeah.
Don't
I
count
like
out,
Algier this week, though. I do. I think that, to your point, he's going to get attempts, and against this defense, he could break one on any play. So, I mean, unless you have better options, like especially for your lineups, I think that there's a high floor for that. But obviously, a high ceiling for that. But I think the floor could be low because obviously Patterson could end up getting 25 touches.
Yeah.
Let's answer this question here from a DJ generator before we get to you, Jonathan. Sorry, 1 second.
No.
We got a full PPR question. Deion Jackson for the Colts or Donta Foreman for the Panthers? Let's start with that one first. I actually like Foreman over Jackson this week. The Patriots have been really good about stopping the run, and you're kind of hoping for a volume situation for Deion Jackson, which you don't know if that's going to be the case. With Ellinger, things just seemed very scattered last week. You didn't know what was happening. It's almost like they didn't know what to do in certain circumstances with the tough defensive matchup, and they're facing another one this week with New England. So I would roll with Foreman this week. Les, what do you think here, man?
Yeah, same here. Also, everything you said, but also Chuba Hubbard is out too. So, like you said, it's Foreman's guaranteed 20-plus touches, where you don't know that for Deion Jackson and how that game flow is going to go. So.
Jonathan, Evan Ingram or Isaiah Likely this week?
I think I'm going Likely here. I mean, Baltimore is just so they've been decimated by injury. So I think going into that, we know that he is going to, we've seen it previously that when Andrews is out, my guess is that Andrews is going to be out. That seems to be the way things are trending. And we've seen that when Andrews has been out, Likely has seen targets. Obviously, Bateman is out as well. So I think, yeah, that's what I go for this week. And I'm with you with Donta Foreman as well. Jackson, when we saw him last,
Depending on the rest
of targets he saw. Sorry, I was going to say I don't know how many targets he saw. I think it was close to like 8 or 10 or something like that from Ryan. But that's what we know. We know that Ryan likes to do that. We just don't know that Ellinger is going to do that with Jackson, and it's a tough matchup. So yeah, I'm going Foreman there as well.
Depending on the guy's rest of his lineups, I don't hate starting both of those tight ends this week because Ingram's got one of the best matchups. He does. The Raiders are 30th against opposing tight ends. And what I love about Ingram, he's been scoring 10 points a game in PPR leagues every week without a touchdown. So if he has a touchdown in one of these games, which is Raiders defense gives up a lot of touchdowns to tight ends. I know it's, buoyed by the 4 touchdown performance by Kelsey, but they've had touchdowns in 3 other games. I don't hate playing both of them depending, with 6 teams on a bye, what the rest of your roster looks like.
Got another question here from Calvo. Morning, fellas. Good morning to you. Sit one, Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, Deion Jackson. Nate, let's start with you this time. Who are you sitting?
Man, I'm probably I don't want to ever sit Swift just simply because, we've seen what he can do on limited carries. Exactly. And I think that he's on a snap count, but it might go back. I don't want both of them. I don't want Williams and Swift, I don't think. So then it becomes that decision. I think I'm going to sit Swift and just trust that even if Swift is involved between the 20s, Jamal Williams in the red zone and a goal line is always utilized. And I'll take just the kind of the easy points. And I don't dislike Deion Jackson, Jorge, but again, like you said earlier, like Jonathan said, Ellinger's not check down Matt, and I worry without the receptions, but I'm still going to trust in the fact that they're getting acclimated to that offense. So I'm sitting Swift.
All right. Another question here. Yeah, no, I hear you, man. We got another question here from Don. What's up, Don? Hey, guys. Full PPR. Kyle Pitts or Hayden Hurst? Pitts for me. Anybody else?
Pitts. Hurst is a good play, and he's probably got a higher floor. But if you look at the Falcons' best games, it's not a coincidence that Pitts has gone off in all 3 of them. So he's also been good in the dome. He's had better splits at home. I think they are realizing we've got to get this guy the ball. And no offense to Hayden Hurst, he can't have a 20, 30-point game. Pitts has the ability to do that with his, athletic ability and just talent.
All right, we got another question from DJ Duvernay. Hey, where do you guys see D-Hop rest of season, even when Hollywood Brown gets back off of IR? I see him right where he's at. He's a star. He's a playmaker. And any concerns you had about him should have been washed away in terms of what they want to involve him in. The target share is there. And even if the targets go down a little bit, just the talent is there. He has not been that red zone only threat that he was last year. He seems healthy. He seems ready to go, fresh. I see him as a very, top 12 wide receiver. Les, is top 12 too aggressive for you, or what do you think?
No, not at all. Hopkins, as a Houston Texans fan, I can vouch for this. But Hopkins is who he's always been, that reliable safety valve for Kyler. Like you said, in the slot, out wide. I really like him rest of the season.
I got a question here from Johnny T80. Good morning. PPR flex, pick one: Godwin, Jamal Williams, Adam Thielen. Man, Nate, we were talking about Godwin the other day about just how the targets have just been piling up his way, and it's just only a matter of time before things just kind of break loose. But there is something to be said for things being off with this Buccaneers team. Jamal Williams, we talked about just a few minutes ago as far as DeAndre Swift. How many touches is he going to be taken away from Jamal Williams? But there's the upside in the red zone. Then, of course, you have Adam Thielen, who Bill Mustafa wrote about in their Chasing Upside article, going against Washington, and Washington's defense has just been bad. I mean, bad, but they still are finding ways to win. Yay, go Commanders. Man, this is a tough one. Godwin, question mark, Jamal Williams, question mark, Thielen, question mark as Justin Jefferson is there. They're trying to include TJ Hawkinson this week, which I was reading in local reports that they are making an avid attempt in his first game with the Vikings on a short week to get him involved in this offense. So for me, it really comes down to, do you trust the GOAT, or are you rolling with Kirk Cousins in a revenge game back in Washington? I'm gonna trust Brady one more week. I'm gonna go Godwin this week.
This is PPR, right? So if it's PPR, it's got to be Godwin. I mean, he's getting 10 plus targets every week. He's gonna score 10 points. I mean, for sure. I think he's had 5 receptions at least in his last 4 games. To Nate's point though about Williams and Swift, I just looked it up. Red zone carries, Williams 21, Swift 4. So I'm with Nate that if you're looking for a start, I mean, you're counting on a big play for Swift, to where with Williams, all they got to do is get the ball in the red zone, and you're going to have a chance to get 6 points right there.
Wonder how many red zone targets TJ Hawkinson had. If
in Detroit?
Yeah, because just, again, a redirection or a reallocation of red zone targets intrigues me to see if that even inflates
Swift.
Jamal Williams.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
And I can get to it, but continue with the next thing you have, Jorge, and I can look
or
it up.
or deflates Adam Thielen, because if we're thinking about Thielen's usage,
he's got 6 red zone targets.
That's interesting, Jorge. I like that switch. I honestly, I forget that there's a lot of components together. But yeah.
We got Sebastian. Sebastian, I don't recognize you. That's maybe your first time on the show. Thank you very much for tuning in, man.
Morning.
Jacoby Myers or Jamal Williams this week, full PPR. Les, you mentioned Jacoby Myers as a buy low candidate this week in your buy low sell high article, which you should check over, folks, at fantasyandframes.com, or check out the graphics over on Instagram or on Facebook, on our Facebook page at Fantasy and Frames. What are your thoughts here? Full PPR, Myers or Jamal Williams this week?
Hey, Jorge, thanks for the layup here. I like Jacoby Myers, definitely, as you stated in my article. Sebastian, so what I put in my article is Jacoby Myers has averaged double digits this season every game that he's been active, full PPR. No receiver except for Stephon Diggs and Cooper Kupp in the top 10 can say the same thing. So, if this was half PPR, more debatable, but full PPR, Jacoby all day.
All right, let's carry on with this Falcons-Chargers game. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Nate, Rashaan Evans, Michael Walker, they seem to be a good 1-2 tandem for linebackers for IDP purposes.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, Drew Tranquil, who, I used to call him Drew NyQuil for years, or, Ken Sonnenberg came on the show a couple weeks ago, call him Drew Tranquilizer, just as a very sleepy, non-exciting IDP linebacker. Dude's been balling out this season. Derwin James, obviously, for the defensive back position, he's in most people's DB1 overall spot each and every week for very good reason. Is there anybody I'm missing here outside of those 4 players, Derwin James, Drew Tranquil, Evans, and Walker?
I mean, you can always pivot and look at Khalil Mack as an option. I mean, the thing is most likely he'll have his hands full with Jake Matthews. I don't know if that's getting your hands full anymore. I mean, no offense, Jake Matthews, but it's not. It's Khalil Mack. But I don't like the, going in the sack only or the sack upside type play always has me a little concerned. Defensively, outside of that, I mean, I really want to see Ebiketie against Trey Pipkins, but I don't know if that's going to be fantasy relevant as much as it's a splash upside play. If you happen to, if there was an IDP prop that you could go a sack total of, over 0.5 and you could put $20 on Ebiketie, that would be a fun matchup because Trey Pipkins sucks and Ebiketie is exciting and will be really good. It's just usage at this point. So nothing more outside of that. Hopefully Richie Grant could, again, be an option.
Do something. Poke at him. Come on, do something.
Right.
Speaking of upside plays for IDP, if you check out our chasing IDP upside that Nate put out, especially for those people who have defensive tackle or defensive end specific position roster designations, Nate did a really good job of pointing out a couple of players, especially at DT, you should be taking a peek at this week for upside plays, as well as other IDP plays. You can check that out again over on our social media pages and then on our article over at fantasyandframes.com. So great job, Nate. Let's go to the next. Yeah,
may I tell a quick story? I take 2 seconds.
Yeah, go for it. Got all morning.
My daughter's friends, her boyfriend and all his friends now. I'm the 20-year-old house that everybody wants to come over and watch football because they're all into fantasy, and it's just a Q&A session. Everybody sits around and asks. Well, we're watching Thursday night, and they came over as I was doing our podcast, and they're Eagles fans, and so they came over to watch the game, and they heard me talking a lot about Javon Hargrave, and they're like, "Why are you mentioning Javon Hargrave so much on a fantasy football podcast?" And I said, well, because the matchup, blah 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 blah. We're sitting there. And they literally are like, man, you imagine if there was a league, and this is a serious conversation, if they had like individual defensive players you could just watch. And I said, do you idiots not read anything that I write? Do you not pay attention? They're like,
the youth of America, ladies and gentlemen.
They had no clue. Every one of them is going to sign up for an IDP league now next year because Javon Hargrave. That's why, because they saw my excitement, because Javon Hargrave is my play of the week, and I had him in my top 20 overall, and he just absolutely blows up. And they see me getting excited watching Javon Hargrave, so they're rooting for Javon Hargrave. My wife, my daughter, they're like, "Oh, fuck is Javon Hargrave?" What? Like because they don't know that name, they never heard us talk about it. And so that if I ever have a story to tell about why IDP, next IDP panel at the Expo, it's that story is to watch people just change in one game. Watch Javon Hargrave and see how excited you can get about that when you pick the right person and watch them blow up. It's true football fans that would really, really appreciate playing IDP more so than just a casual fantasy player that, has a work league with some buddies. So it was, thought of all you guys.
Unless you're 0-8 like me in your first IDP league, it really sucks. It's not, it doesn't take any smarts. It's
all luck.
I'm terrible at this. It's terrible.
I was going to say, I've definitely found that as well. Like, this is my first year of playing IDP, and if you're watching one game and you've got players on both sides of the ball, it means that you are actually kind of really invested when on both sides. And kind of when I've been to games here in London and I've got a player that's a defensive player and like watching them get sacked, it's good to see it. Yeah, it's completely different.
Let's get to a Team DST question here. From Calvo over on YouTube. Bengals defense versus the Panthers, or Vikings D versus the Washington Commanders. This is a tough one because I love Daniil Hunter this week. I love Zadarius Smith this week versus Washington, and I like Zadarius Smith because he's been moved all across the defensive line, looking for mismatches, not just relegated to playing against left tackle. On the flip side, you got the Bengals, who have two pretty good pass rushers there. I'm going to go Bengals. Who are we playing? Like the Panthers. It's the Panthers. I can't get behind the Panthers offense, and I think the Bengals D will stifle them this week. What about you, Nate? What are your thoughts?
I'm going the opposite, only because despite
Because I'm wearing the hoodie and you're being petty, and I
It's
understand.
the corner done for the year.
It's shocking. Like, I look at it, and I think the Bengals the same way with the pass rush, but yet they're like 24th in sacks. The Vikings, put it this way, the Vikings have 21 sacks on the season. Cincinnati has 14. Turnovers lean in Minnesota's direction. You know as well as I do that Washington offensive line is about as bad as it can get. And you could see
We have Charles Leno. He's good.
you could have Jay Leno, and there's a better chance that he would stay upright.
Wu-Tang forever.
Wu-Tang.
Got another question from Cavo and Hawkinson or Likely. Keith, who are you going with?
For this week, I would go with Likely, just with Andrews being out, or it looks like he's going to be out. I shouldn't say he's officially ruled out. And, will the Vikings use Hawkinson? I'm sure they will some, but, I mean, we've seen this over and over again when a player gets traded that, I mean, even McCaffrey was only involved, I think, in like 15 to 20 plays. And, he's a running back. So I don't know, how likely it is Hawkinson has a really big game to where I think that their floors, if Andrews is out, is very similar. But, man, Likely could have a huge ceiling because, I mean, that dude is a monster. We know how, Lamar likes to throw in between the numbers and 2 tight ends. And with Bateman and if Andrews misses, it's going to be Likely and a lot of it.
Got a question here from Don again. Dynasty Week 10. Should I drop PJ Walker versus Atlanta for Heineke at Philadelphia? No. Keep the easy matchup. I stay with PJ Walker versus Atlanta. I wouldn't get Heineke at Philadelphia. That's just
Did he not hear earlier the quarterbacks again? 8 quarterbacks have faced the Falcons. 5 of them had their highest point total of the season. 2 of them their second highest point total of the season. And the other, Jacoby Brissett, had his 3rd highest point total of the season. Falcons are fantasy gold if you're a quarterback, wide receiver, or tight end. Or really a running back too, but not quite as much as the other ones.
All right, let's go to the Windy City in Chicago for Miami at Chicago, obviously. Justin Fields, I'm all on board this week. I'm all on board the Khalil Herbert train. If you read my Start Sit article, look, he went against 2 weeks ago the Patriots that were number 3 in fantasy points, not allowed to the running back position. Last week, he goes against a Dallas defense that's supposed to shut down opposing running games. In both of these matchups, it's not just one of these cases where he stumbled into the end zone and got you double-digit points. Like, no, he versus the Patriots, 89 yards and a touchdown, versus the Cowboys, 99 yards and a touchdown. Like, the guy's putting in work. He's outperforming David Montgomery. It's really a situation where even though this is a somewhat tough matchup versus the Dolphins, who apparently are pretty good against the run, do you trust the talent in Khalil Herbert, or are you going to be scared away from the matchup? I'm trusting the talent in Khalil Herbert. And then with the addition of Chase Claypool, who will be starting today, I say addition via trade. Look, I'm not expecting Chase Claypool to set the world on fire, but what I am expecting him to do is to kind of keep the defense honest a little bit and stop having them crowd the line of scrimmage, which is going to be great for Herbert's outlook. Let's see here for the Dolphins. Jonathan, who we got for the Dolphins here? You're starting Tua. Are you streaming Tua? Are you starting Tua? Are we at the point where we're okay with starting Tua week in and week out, or is he still?
Yeah,
I am. I mean, given how that offense is looking, and it's not as if he needs to kind of be Josh Allen or Mahomes and throw 60, 70 yards. He can throw it 10, 20 yards, and Tyreek can run the rest of the way. I'm more than happy to start Tua the rest of the way. And actually, just quickly on Fields, you mentioned that he's a good start this week. Next week he faces the Lions. The week after he faces the Falcons. So this is going from being a decent streaming option to actually being a guy that you can start for the next 3 weeks. And there's high upside. He's rushing more now. The offense is kind of playing to his strength. So he's becoming a kind of a good starting option now as well.
Edward over on YouTube, just perfect timing because we were about to start talking running backs for the Dolphins. Rank these 3: Mostert, then this is for a flex, I'm assuming DJ Moore, Tyler Boyd, full PPR. Moore, Mostert, Boyd.
I would go Moore, Boyd, Mostert. Mostert has a great matchup, but Joe made an unbelievable case on the Daily Fix this week about why DJ Moore should be one of the most played guys in DFS this week. With the Bengals losing their best corner, their other 2, in matchup rankings man-to-man, which is what the Bengals predominantly run, 110th or worst. So DJ Moore, who's been getting double-digit targets, he should feast. Obviously, Boyd with, the chase out and the fact that the Panthers have a great pass rush, I actually expect Boyd and Hurst to be the two guys to get the most receptions a day. So, I mean, those are three great options. I like all three of those plays this week, but I would go with the two receivers who I think are going to get double-digit targets.
Johnny T's asking also, Keith, the win may be a factor in Chicago. Does this affect the Dolphin cash plays for Hill or Waddle this week for you?
I don't think so, only because both of those guys are not exactly catching down the field passes. I mean, what this Miami offense is doing is getting rid of the ball quickly and letting Hill and Waddle, just be the playmakers that they are. So with most teams, I would say absolutely. But if you look at it, they're not really throwing it down the field that much anyway. So I still think that, maybe a little bit, because obviously Hill is so expensive in DFS this week. Waddle is fairly expensive, but I'm not worried. I mean, Hill, what did you say, Nate? He's seen 92 targets, I think it was, in 8 games or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's on pace for like 2,000 yards. I mean, Hill, to me, if it's in a league, I mean, you don't ever worry about it. You're just thrilled.
It was a really interesting. I was going to say the Athletic were spoke about something really interesting where defenses are now kind of they have to kind of be honest with because that Hill and Waddle can, they need to be deep to a certain extent, but then there's that whole gap in the middle of the field where they're just sitting and then they're flat-footed. And then you've got Tyreek Hill running onto you. So it's I mean, what they've done with that offense is it's been amazing.
Got Kyle here on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, Kyle. The rest of the season, Christian Kirk or Khalil Herbert. When the weather gets colder, I fade towards running backs. I know it's cliche, but that's just how I approach things. So I'm going Herbert. Anybody have an argument for Christian Kirk rest of the season over Khalil Herbert?
Just he's still the number one target in Jacksonville's offense. I mean, it has been it's almost like defenses have figured out how to defend him. If you look the first 4 weeks, he was one of the top wide receivers in football. But if you look at their schedule, they have faced some pretty good secondaries in the last couple of weeks. So I think it's close. Again, for PPR, I always lean towards a receiver, especially if he's the number one option in the offense because his floor is just so much higher.
And then, Nate, let's get you this question from Edward back again. Should I trust Swift or play Mostert instead?
Man.
You're getting bombarded with the DeAndre Swift questions this morning. I almost said Taylor Swift, by the way.
I know you did.
How much Wilson do you think there'll be this week, Nate?
Well, and that's the thing. I think the learning curve is not as steep as many will think because he's used to that system. He should be able to jump right in and know the definitions, know the calls, know the plays, know the assignments. I don't know if they'll want to give him a ton, but I think I would lean. I'm going to go with Swift in this situation. I know that's weird because that means that I have Jamal Williams and I don't remember who the other one was ahead of Mostert. And look at my rankings and Deion Jackson, and they're all really, really close, unfortunately. But I feel. Do you guys do the same thing, right? The FOMO play sometimes, where you would feel worse if you sat DeAndre Swift.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a lot easier to sit somebody that you didn't draft early, and then sit somebody you draft early and be like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, Les, am I crazy for doing it that way?
I don't think you're crazy at all. I'm just worried, like we talked about earlier. I'm just worried about. They've already said that Swift is going to be limited in action. Jamal Williams is getting the red zone touches. I think the game script favors Mostert against Chicago. But yeah, you're not crazy for starting Swift over him at all.
Bears are bad against the run too, really bad.
I know. And they lost Roquan Smith too. So that's
and their best pass rusher too. So they're.
You know what? I'm pivoting. I'm going Raheem Mostert. You guys have.
Boy, Les. I like that. You got me.
Hey,
I'm with you.
Wu-Tang never pivots, man.
That should be a T-shirt. Wu-Tang never pivots.
ODB would never not start Swift. So
love it. Let's stay here in Chicago and Miami. IDP. Jerome Baker has been an utter disappointment linebacker. I know you hate me. I know, but I have to because this is going to be, I think, a fairly run-heavy offense for the Bears. Is there any redeeming quality in Jerome Baker, or is he the type of player for IDP purposes that, you know what, show me something before I ever put trust into you?
I
this season?
mean, you know, the redeeming quality is exactly what you said. The Bears are going to run more times. I mean, I don't know the stats, so I don't even want to throw it out there, but I remember hearing it that they're on pace to have a heavier run pass split than anybody in 20 years, 25 years, something like that. Even if it was 10 years, you get the point. And Jerome Baker should be lined up. Like I said, I love Zach Seiler and Christian Wilkins in this matchup there from just a run stopping perspective. Outside of that, you know, I mean, our guy's gone. It's no more Brandon Jones, so that always takes that away, and that sucks.
Yeah. We got a question here quickly back from Kyle. Thanks, guys. No worries. Anytime. Start Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields today. So as I'm looking at my rankings, I have Cousins at 7 and Fields at 9. So I guess I'll say roll with Cousins. Let's keep going here. IDP, you mentioned it. Roquan Smith got traded to Baltimore, which his number is 18, which I'm like, why did you choose 18 for a linebacker? Isn't that the year he got drafted, though? I think that's probably why he went with that. Anyhow, that's neither here nor there. Nicholas Morrow.
Go Dogs.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Roquan.
No, I know. I remember. Let's see here. Nicholas Morrow, Jaquan Brisker. Travis Gibson is somebody who I'm actually kind of excited to see him today, especially going against right tackle for the Dolphins. I think it was his name, Greg Little, who's been playing atrociously, giving up the most pressures of all offensive linemen. So that could be an interesting upset play there. But
if they play Little, I think he might get benched. I think they might they might go Brandon Shell as an option potentially. It's unfortunately caught up to us now as the really bad plays at offensive line that we like to take advantage of. Well, the offensive coordinators realize that this guy sucks just as bad, so maybe it's process of elimination and they get rid of it. But pay attention to Zach Sanborn. If there's a secondary linebacker that could step in and take the role of Nicholas Morrow while Morrow maybe takes the role of Roquan Smith, it could be Zach Sanborn. Again, just watch with this game. Miami's tough to get a good evaluation of missed tackles from the linebackers, as exactly like Jonathan was talking about. You get flat-footed if you're a linebacker back in coverage or you're a safety and you're trying to make a play. Don't be shocked when you see 4 missed tackles, and think, oh, they're terrible. You tackled Jalen Waddle. You tackled Tyreek Hill with 7 yards worth of running, and exactly. Hips don't lie. Going to Shakira.
From Wu-Tang to Shakira. Okay. Nate, we're gonna give you a break.
Oh, good. Okay.
We'll go to Les here. Les, Deion Jackson or Swift / Mostert? Which one? What's your combo here?
I'm going Deion Jackson just off the volume. He's guaranteed to get those 20-plus touches. And then when he had those before earlier this year, he did really well with them, even against a tough Patriots defense.
Okay. All right. So now let's go to Cincinnati and Carolina. Man, this should, I don't really know what to make of this other than Joe Burrow should have a pretty good day, right, Keith?
We'll see. They got to
really?
They got to block the Panthers' pass rush, and the Panthers have some of the best lockdown corners in the NFL. I actually think this could be an upset. I'm really worried for Burrow. We saw what that offense looked like without Chase last week, and I would argue the Panthers get at the quarterback better than the Browns do. So, I mean, I would not be surprised, obviously, if Burrow has a good game. And obviously, if it's in your league, I would start him. I'm not going to, if you have Joe Burrow, you got to play him. But I do worry about this Panthers pass rush. I think they have 3 or more sacks in like 5 of 8 games. And we've seen that, there's games that Cincinnati's just, they can't block the pass rush, and they don't run the ball. I shouldn't say. I don't know if they don't run the ball or they can't run the ball. But like we went into the Cleveland game last week, where I was expecting, okay, this is a Joe Mixon game. Cleveland's given up 1,000 yards in the last 4 games on the ground. He had 8 rush attempts. So, The guys I really like in this game for Cincinnati are, again, the guys that are underneath Boyd and Hurst. A little nervous about Higgins, especially in DFS for his price. I do like Burrow at his price this week if you like Cincinnati. But I do think Carolina has a chance to really put pressure on Burrow in this offense if they can get to him and Cincinnati continues to not run the ball.
Jonathan, let's stick with this Joe Mixon thing here. Is there any rationale for making him a starter in your fantasy league? Obviously, it hasn't been the case so far this season. What about today's matchup? What do you think?
Joe Mixon, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that Nate was talking about before, that you drafted him in like the second round, so you're starting him. And he is seeing targets. I mean, that's the kind of thing that's kind of holding up his value. I mean, I've got him in the staff league, and I had high hopes for him, thought that volume was going to be there. Offensive line, I was hoping was going to be a little bit better, but it's basically just the targets that are keeping him kind of in that upper echelon, or towards the upper echelon of running backs. But yeah, I mean, in terms of DFS, I mean, Keith mentioned it before that there are much better options at good prices. So yeah.
Okay, and we talked about Deontay Foreman earlier. DJ Moore. Is DJ Moore a good start this week, Les, do you think, versus Cincinnati, who's lost one of their cornerbacks this week and now has a rookie in Dag still playing?
Yeah, I think last week I'm a PJ Walker believer. I'm not starting him, but he's kind of got that Geno Smith effect where, I mean, that play to DJ Moore, and like Patrick Mahomes said, was one of the best throws he's seen all season.
It's incredible.
That was
DJ Moore is just so versatile. He can beat you deep. He's strong enough to be in the slot. I like him.
All right, we got a question here from Matt over on YouTube. 2 QB, tight end premium, super flex. Which two should I start? Zach Wilson, Brian Robinson, and Isaiah Likely.
Definitely Likely, right? I mean, tight end premium, and with his targets and what we've seen in games, that's for sure. Boy, with Wilson and Robinson, yikes. Jorge, you're the Washington guys. Robinson going to get more carries, or are they going to Gibson? It looks like they're.
It's the Antonio Gibson show here. He's just been playing too good, and Robinson is just not. I mean, great story, great comeback, but for performance on the field, it's just been Antonio Gibson who's been playing better. So give me Zach Wilson. Ugh, that sounds so. That's so bad to say. Give me Zach Wilson and Isaiah Likely.
It is at least a game they should be down, right, and chucking it, which is the games Wilson's had the most points. That's what they've been. They get blown out, but Wilson has a decent fantasy game. So I'm with you. Give me Wilson and Likely.
He borders.
I mean, he is. We know he's going to chuck it. It just depends which team he's going to chuck it to. Right. I suppose.
Well, here's the good news: if in this matchup, at least, Buffalo has one area that they're not lacking at in this particular game is the pass rush. That's not a positive for Zach Wilson. We've seen that in that his numbers under pressure, horrendous. I can't even. There's no adjective to describe. But you have no Matt Milano potentially, no Jordan Poyer. Tre'Davious White's supposed to return, but most likely he's not going to return because you don't need him against the Jets, and the Bills have been more cautious, a little kid gloves with some of their returning injured players. So they're missing pieces across Buffalo. So at least, if anything, he doesn't have the full, 6-shooter loaded with ammo pointing at him. It's kind of a Russian roulette of, will he give you, 18 points, or are you going to get 6? And they might go Mitch White, which is a legitimate, Mike White. I have Mike White actually ranked in my rankings just because of the fact that it could be Buffalo just onslaught.
Let's go to the IDP side of the ball. Cincinnati, Hubbard, Hendrickson, a little bit more sack dependent. Hubbard, a little bit more tackle friendly. Von Bell. Let's talk about Dax Hill here, Nate, rookie.
Sure.
We loved him coming out of college. We saw and read and talked about the fact that he is so versatile. He played corner, he played free safety, he played strong safety. He could basically do anything. He's the Swiss Army knife. Yeah. And the whole thing about him was that, is he going to be the guy? Because Jesse Bates at the time was holding out due to contract issues. Mm-hmm. Bates obviously came back. Dax Hill's riding the pine. Now he's filling in for, I forget the corner that went down, but now he's filling in.
Uzier?
my guy. How did I
Your
forget
guy.
about you?
I don't
Oh,
know. I was very disappointed in you for not knowing.
I'm disappointed in myself.
Should be.
Well, thank you. Lay it on. Yeah. So now Dax Hill is at corner. I really don't know what to make of that. I guess what we're about to see if he is that Swiss Army knife, as everyone was saying he was earlier in the year, us included. On Carolina side of the ball, Keith, you brought up Brian Burns is a monster among men, and the Bengals can't block. Not the Bengals, the Panthers can't block worth a damn. Who else for Carolina here, Nate?
So I will say I like Miles Hartsfield this week. He's a safety / slot corner. I think that he'll see a lot of slot work against Tyler Boyd. He saw that against the Buccaneers when he was up against Chris Godwin. Passer rating against of 124 point something. Obviously leads to the old he'll let you catch it and then he's going to tackle you 7 yards downfield. Great for Tyler Boyd, who might have 7 catches for 75 yards against him. Great for Miles Hartsfield because there's a chance that he does what he's done the last 4 or 5 weeks, is have a 4 to 5 tackle floor with added bonus of any fumble or pick, just a splash play, if you will. And then I hate them saying this, I love Shaq Thompson this week. I had to go in and I was digging a little deep to see why. Shaq Thompson will do the one thing that I didn't realize Cincinnati was horrendous against. Watch this. If you get a chance to see this game, I'm sorry you're watching that game, but whatever. If you see highlights from that, Cincinnati has allowed a middle linebacker and inside linebacker to get a sack. I think I have it in front of me in every game, if not multiple. And so they just, that middle of that interior line is bad. I think defenses are keen on that. And if they send Thompson in, I think that there's a 7 tackle floor. I think with a sack upside, if I have him in my top 15 this week. So I'm high on him, and Frankie Luvu as well has been a really stellar linebacker, especially against the Bengals, who allow the most points to opposing defensive linebackers.
First of all, Matt, he said, I just subscribed. Thanks for answering my question. Thank you very much, Matt. Come on anytime. We got plenty of shows for you to ask questions. He has another question. He says he also has Elijah Moore. So now the question is Elijah Moore, Zach Wilson, Brian Robinson, or Isaiah Likely. You're shaking your head, Keith. Stay with Zach Wilson and Isaiah Likely.
Well, we just don't know. I mean, I saw there's a report Elijah Moore could, see more in this offense. He's been begging to get the ball, but I mean, we don't know. And most of his games, he's had like 1-2 points to where at least we know Zach Wilson is going to play. And I mean, obviously, I think if Moore ends up having a good game, Zach Wilson should have at least a decent game. So I'm gonna go with the QB there.
I have a friend of the show, Michael Bauer from the Dynasty Rewind podcast. Love it.
Perfect timing. Because may I not interrupt? I am so sorry.
Take the floor. Go for it.
Breaking news. The Washington Commanders have made multiple roster moves. Of that, they have elevated linebacker Nathan Gary from the practice squad to their active roster. Without Cole Holcomb in the game, Nathan Gary could play and get another tackle. It's a great day in Washington. Wu-Tang.
A Fantasy and Frames favorite.
First of all, for those who don't know, okay, Michael Bauer is the host of the Dynasty Rewind podcast. If you're not listening to them, subscribe to their YouTube channel, listen to them, follow them on Twitter. Follow him on Twitter also. He is a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and Nathan Gary was a linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. For IDP purposes, he was a great start for a good chunk of 2 seasons ago, just because he got you a lot of tackles. The problem is, from a real football perspective, he was letting offensive players catch too many passes, get too many breakaway runs. So while he was getting you the tackles, he wasn't actually doing anything good from a defensive standpoint. So not only did the Eagles bench him, but they eventually cut him. What's funny about this is that every single person started associating Nate Gary with Michael Bauer and Michael Bauer with Nate Gary. For what reason, I have no idea. But this drove Michael Bauer crazy to the point whenever he hears the name Nate Gary, he loses his mind, much like he's doing right here in our YouTube chat.
Like a visceral hatred every time his name came up in the show.
Oh my God. I'm in group chats where people would text me on the side, Jorge, you don't know what's going on in our other group chat. Michael Bauer's losing it because you said Nate Gary. I'm just, well, sorry. Anyhow, back to Matt. Yeah, definitely in the doghouse. The report was out before week 8 too, and Moore didn't do a thing. Yeah, no, Zach Wilson, Isaiah Lucky there.
Yeah, that's a great photo. It's a great photo.
Yeah, my favorite is when he was facing the wrong way against Cincinnati, facing the wrong way. That's Nate Gary for you. That's my Washington Commander linebacker this week in place of Cole Holcomb.
I'm putting him in my rankings this week.
Stop it.
Right. I'm doing it right now.
Do it.
I'm going to do it
why
right
he's
now.
top 5, right?
No. Yeah, that was. This year's been rough, but I appreciate the.
There's still a whole second half of the season there.
There is, and it's going to be led by Nathan Gary, who's not even in the addable rosters yet.
That's hilarious.
Come on, fantasy pros, get on it.
All right, Les, let's go back to you. Let's talk a little Detroit. Let's talk some Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers bounce back game this week. I know it's kind of like weird to say that people have been saying fading Aaron Rodgers for weeks. He just hasn't been able to, who's he got, right? Does that change this week for you against the Detroit Lions, or are you still kind of weary about starting him?
I mean, I don't have him on any roster that I own, but if you have him, you could start him against the Lions. What are the worst? Dave, what's going on over there?
What's good, guys?
All right. But yeah, I think if you have him, you could start him, though. I'd probably start him over Tom Brady, to be honest with you.
All right. Yeah, I like the running back matchup this week. For me, I'm rolling with A.J. Dillon. Look, this has to be the A.J. Dillon week. The Bengals are so bad against the run. Excuse me, not the Bengals. The Lions are so bad against the run. If A.J. Dillon does not go off or get you at least 12, 13 points this week with a touchdown included, you may have to consider the whole bench thing, because it's then he becomes a situation of like if Aaron Jones goes down, then insert AJ Dillon to your lineup. But as far as like a flex candidate, this is it. This is where you draw the line. This far, no further. To quote Captain Picard from Star Trek First Contact. On the for the wide receiver position, I actually like Romeo Doubs this week. And no, it's not just bias from last week, him making that ridiculous catch. Jonathan, you'll appreciate this, being the resident Packers fan here. Every time Aaron Rodgers says something negatively about a young wide receiver, I'm assuming he's talking directly through the media to Romeo Doubs. And this young man has two options: cave or make some crazy ass reception that gives you faith, that gives Aaron Rodgers faith. And he bounces back from adversity. But he is very inconsistent. That being the case, Detroit corners are giving up the most points to wide receivers in the league. Are you rolling Doubs this week as a start option or a flex option, or you still need to see more from him?
No, I think he's a good kind of low-end flex option. The one thing I would say is that Alan Lazard should be back this week. So I think maybe lowers his upside slightly. You probably won't see quite as many targets, but I mean, he is going to be inconsistent. He was a 4th-round rookie. We can't expect him to be, consistent on a week-to-week basis. But if there is going to be a week for the Packers offense to bounce back, it is going to be this week. Lions are, a horrendous defense. I think they're 32nd in defensive DVOA. So I'm more than happy to start Rodgers this week. Yeah, Jones, Lazard, Doubs. I think Lazard and Doubs are decent sort of flex options for me, and Tunyon as well. I think Tunyon is another good option.
Let's go to the Detroit side of the ball. No TJ Hawkinson anymore. Crikey. No TJ Hawkinson. Does this mean good things for Amon-Ra St. Brown here, Dave, with no Hawkinson competing for targets, or do you think defenses might kind of rally to him and kind of make it difficult for him?
It should be. I'm more excited about his name, Khalif Raymond. I think he's going to get peppered a lot of targets because I think Josh Reynolds is out. Amon-Ra will get his fair share of targets. He'll get his 9-10 targets and probably end up with, maybe 80, 90 yards and a touchdown. I'm guessing, but who else is going to catch the ball? It's got to be Raymond.
Mhm.
That's a good point. Anybody else for the Lions here on offense? Probably not, right? Besides
Jared Goff.
Jamal. You like?
Yeah.
Why do you like Jared Goff?
Well, I mean, the Packers suck on defense. Like,
I think the Lions win by 2 touchdowns today.
I'm not going that far, but I mean, if you look at it, the
do.
Lions score points. I think the Packers are going to score. I think this is a high-scoring game in a dome on a week that we got a few weather games. And I mean, if you look at Jared Goff, like for fantasy purposes, he's really solid. And with 6 teams on a bye, or if you're looking at DFS, I think he's 5,700 this week. It's not a bad option. I'm not really worried about the Hawkinson deal. I mean, St. Brown was seeing 30% plus targets when Hawkinson was there this season. And I just, Goff has found a way to spread around. The other games that they've had people banged up, other than that Pats game, which I know was horrendous, but he had literally nobody there. There was no Swift. There was no St. Brown. When they have Swift and St. Brown, the offense moves. It wasn't Hawkinson that was keeping this offense going. It's really more when Swift and St. Brown are playing.
The one worry I would have around Goff is just that the Packers are much better against the pass than they are against the run. I think they're 31st in defensive DVOA against the run. I think they're 9th versus the pass. So that, I mean, I think it'll probably depend on the game script. But
so that's because when you're down, right? Teams are running.
True,
on you.
yeah. But then that's where DVOA kind of comes in, kind of levels it slightly. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Jamal Williams today because of that.
See, I want to be on the flip side. I think you said Jared Goff today because from the defensive looking component, Green Bay ranks 8th in the NFL according to PFF in pass rushing, whereas the Lions are 27th in pass blocking. That's not exactly a good recipe. Things just scream to me that you have limited targets. I understand what you're saying about the 30% target share for Amon-Ra, but it just feels like this is going to be a Green Bay, put their foot on their throat.
The same thing for the Giants and Jets games, though. The Packers are bad. I've been telling people this for over a month. They are not a good football team.
We're going to have like a water bet or something next week. Whoever gets this right or wrong is going to get doused with a bottle of water. Fine, done. And as Nate will tell you.
Was it the bucket challenge a decade ago or whatever? You remember that thing?
That's crazy. Neil, let's roll through some IDP real quick here for this matchup. Let's start with Green Bay. Who we got this week?
I love the matchup from a football perspective of Rashawn Gary and Penei Sewell. I think that'll be a fun one to watch. Obviously, you always want to bet on Rashawn Gary to do something productive. And Preston Smith probably has the better of the two matchups as far as one-on-one. Taylor Decker is not exactly Penei Sewell. Shocker, in case anybody wasn't aware of that. But realistically, the only play that I'm excited to start to have in my lineup is Quay Walker, because now without Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker is going to wear the green dot, take on a 3-down role. We've seen him in even 70% of the snaps. He's top 15, I believe, in the NFL in solo tackles. So, I mean, he's very productive, even in limited snaps. So you throw another 30% on top of that, and I think you have an LB1 this week. Where do I have him? I have him LB number 12 overall. So I guess at least I'm believing in what I'm saying, which is always a positive. On the other side, go ahead. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, the tackle rate is impressive. What's even more impressive is this tackle rate for the past 3 weeks, close to a month now, over 23% tackle rate with a 5.3 missed tackle rate for Quay Walker. Dude has been balling out lately. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, you didn't interrupt. You just accentuated the point, which is what a good team does. So congratulations. We're like the Packers in that we're good and we help each other. I'm kidding. I know. I'm joking. They're not that good.
You shouldn't say you're kidding to that. That's a good thing to be whatever.
I'm kidding that the Packers are good. I wasn't kidding that we're not good. That was just, they're not good. We'll see how bad. I think that they'll win this game regardless. But on the defensive side for the Lions, you always want to, you want to put Hutch in, but it just, I don't know. He's definitely boom or bust. Malcolm Rodriguez is the one that I think is going to get plenty of play in a situation where I think we know that it's going to have to be a run-heavy approach, just process of elimination. I do like Alan Lazard being back. That makes me feel a little bit better overall. But Deshaun Elliott's back as well as far as safety goes. He was a tackle monster up until the injury. Now him being back, you don't have to worry about Juju Hughes. Kirby Joseph can stay deep. So Deshaun Elliott's another one that I would fire up in my lineups.
News breaking across the good old sleeper wire or Twitter sphere. Cam Akers will be active today. They are going to start incorporating him more and more, they say, on a week-by-week basis. We'll see what happens. Wait till Kyron Williams gets taken off IR, then we'll see if that, whatever. That's what the news says, and so there we go. Just wanted to bring that to your attention.
What are you guys doing with Darrell Henderson?
I think he's a sit this week. I don't like
Is
this
he a
match.
drop?
No, I wouldn't drop Darrell Henderson.
I would. I wouldn't want to have any Rams running back. Their offense. I mean, I don't see. They have one of the hardest remaining schedules too in the NFL. The rest of the way. I mean, the Rams might not win more than 5-6 games this year. When you seriously look at their schedule, it gets really tough. Honestly, other than Cooper Kupp, there isn't a Ram that maybe Higbee. You look at like what Stafford's done. It's tough times in LA. They won the Super Bowl last year, though. Good for them.
Keith, let's stay with you. Donta Foreman, rest of the season. What are your thoughts on him?
I mean, if he's going to get the volume that he is, last week and, looks like this week. I mean, he did this in Tennessee last year. And I think people forget Tennessee, I think, would have won that playoff game versus the Bengals if they would have not gave the ball to like a 75% Derrick Henry and instead continued to give the ball to Donta Foreman, who was so great for them those last 5-6 games when Henry was out. So I like him a lot. I'm mad that I didn't pick him up, to be honest. I ended up, unfortunately, spending my auction money in a couple of leagues on James Robinson, who was also there and, had just been traded to the Jets. And we'll see how that works out. But, I thought there was going to be more of a split with Hubbard and, Foreman. But I don't know how you can say when Hubbard comes back with what Foreman's doing that it should be a 50-50 split.
Michael Bauer from the Dynasty Rewind suggesting a dynasty pickup here in James Mitchell coming out of Virginia Tech. Should get targets with no TJ Hawkinson going forward. So a little fun facts. So thank you, Mike. Giant T80, Khalif Raymond or MVS full PPR. Raymond, Dave, you made a very convincing case here for Khalif Raymond with no Josh Reynolds here, and then the defense is keying on Amon-Ra. So good call there. Nate,
the only thing I will just real quickly remind everyone, because Joe brought this up on the pod, is that Moore plays in the slot, Brown plays in the slot a lot, meaning Alexander will probably not be lined up on him, and that could mean that Raymond's on the outside, and that would be actually the guy that he's lined up on a lot. So just be careful about that because he is a really good corner.
Mm-hmm. All right, DJ Jimmer, fantasy aside, do you think the Ravens signing Roquan was a big move? I'm a Ravens fan. I know he's producing as an elite player, but do you guys personally like it for their squad? Nate, a couple weeks ago, I want to say like a month ago, who were we saying would be the perfect fit for that linebacking core in Baltimore? I believe it was Blake Martinez because he was a really good, high efficient tackler.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So answering this question, what would you say here to DJ Duvernay?
Yeah, I actually had the conversation last night with a friend who we ran into who's a big Ravens fan, and that was the first thing out of his mouth was unbelievable. Can you believe, and then just waxing poetic about Roquan because the guy's, what has he got, 83 tackles so far on the season. It just, tackles aside, just his impact is huge. Not that Patrick Queen was having a bad season, but now you have a secondary piece, and I'm not a Patrick Queen fan, that. I want to see I love this. I like this Mike McDonald defense. It's really explosive. It's blitz heavy. He's mixing up the packages enough that is keeping offenses on their heels, which they need because their offense is a little lackluster as far as going forward, if you want to say one-dimensional. So, yeah, when Isaiah Likely and is our most talked about player, and that's probably not a great thing, but yeah, I love Roquan.
Yeah, Ryan H over on YouTube. Pick 2 standard: Kirk, Metcalf, Palmer, Samuel. Metcalf for me, and Palmer. Why am I forgetting who this Palmer? Josh Palmer.
Josh Palmer.
Yeah, against the Falcons.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
That'd be the way to go. There we go.
That's what I'm going to do
All
too.
Let's go Indianapolis and New England. Les, let's go to you here. We talked a little bit about Deion Jackson in terms of you agree that the matchup is tough for him, but that the volume should be there just because of what are they going to do? Air it out with Sam Ellinger? I don't know. I doubt it. Michael Pittman, is he becoming more of a fade or an afterthought now with no Matt Ryan throwing the ball?
I'd like to give Sam one more week and see how it goes. But yeah, I'm not optimistic on him right now either.
If you're the Jonathan Taylor manager, and the obviously trade deadlines are something that we have to be considering over the next few weeks, man, if you're trying to sell high on Jonathan Taylor based off of name value alone, what would you want in return for Jonathan Taylor?
That's
I'm not sure you can get anything good in
Yeah,
return.
3-pack of underwear
I don't
and
think anyone's
bag of
going
chips.
to give you anything.
3-pack seems steep, but I mean,
Different colors, though. I need to have different colors.
I
Otherwise,
do,
people think
yeah.
you're gross,
well, yeah, navy, black, and no white,
Yeah.
of course. I'm not a weirdo.
Going
It's
to
got to
the
be a
New
stretchy one, all right? It's cotton.
Yeah.
I need to breathe, all right?
Exactly. Wow. Okay. The New England side of the ball. Look, Ramondre Stevenson, yes. Jacoby Myers, yes. So just to clarify for this game, Deion Jackson with tempered expectations, Michael Pittman with tempered expectations, Ramondre Stevenson, absolutely. Jacoby Myers should be. Anybody else I'm missing on offense for both of these teams? Or did I just summarize basically the offensive fantasy players for this matchup for the Patriots and the Colts on offense?
If you're looking for like a long play on DFS, I do like Thornton. They use him in several different ways, and he's got the speed and athleticism to where one play he can take it to the house. I think he's like 3,300 this week. So, I mean, if you're looking for a really cheap play from this game, he would be the one.
Nate, for
I like Stevenson for DFS big time. I think
he's my favorite play.
He's going to eat like Joey Chestnut at a hot dog eating contest. That guy's just going to get fed the ball. But yeah, definitely fire him up. He's pretty cheap in DFS.
6,200, and he's had 20 points in 5 straight. So yeah, absolutely. Especially
Paris Campbell too. He's been quite coming on the last couple weeks as well. I'm almost hit double digits last week, but that would have been 3 weeks in a row. So
he stopped the Pierce hype train too, which I was unfortunately on.
Yeah, that's where Sam's been. The Pittman downfall. The targets I think will still be there. They're just short to intermediate, but he was looking deep for Pierce, and Pierce's matchup is much better than Pittman this week.
Pittman had 2 terrible drops though too, and
very uncharacteristic. I hope that they'll go back. I hope they have time to get rid of the ball.
That's
point. Where I actually like Pittman is that if he's running this A-dot short, if you have to try to stop Matt Judon and Dietrich Wise, and it seems like that's going to be, he's not going to air it out to Pierce as much as we would like, but I don't know if I like this game at all outside of Ramondre, really.
But doesn't that mean Deion Jackson in PPR leagues again? If they're bringing that kind of pressure, he's got to get 4 or 5 receptions. I know the Pats have given up 4 more receptions, and I think it's 6 of their 7 games to running backs. I mean, I know that he didn't do it last week. Nyheim Hines only saw 2 targets. It was the least I think he had seen all season. Yeah. But I just I would think that they have to dump it to Deion a good bit if they're getting that kind of pressure.
You think so?
You mentioned Matt Judon, Dietrich Wise here on defense today for the Patriots. Are you starting both of these guys? If you obviously Matt Judon, but does Dietrich Wise have a good matchup this week versus?
Oh my God, yeah. The name remains the same. Matt Pryor. Give me all of Matt Pryor, especially if the way they line it up is they've been moving Dietrich Wise alongside Judon in more of like kind of the tackle, then they move him on to the end and they do some stunts. And if they can take advantage of that right side, really more up the middle, we could see a really good game out of Dietrich Wise. I'm tempted to move him up even further than I have him, but it's it's difficult because if he doesn't get a sack and a half, then he might only have 2 tackles and finishes the DL 90.
Nate, I got a DB question. I got Buda Baker in right now.
Okay,
but he's questionable to start. On my bench is Mike Edwards. Is Mike Edwards a safer play?
Yeah, with the Antoine Winfield being out, I think Mike Edwards is a solid play, especially against a Rams team that I don't know if they're going to run the ball a lot. I don't think they're going to be able to pass the ball a ton, but I think if they want to do anything is control the clock and control the game. And I think Edwards will be up in the box.
For the Patriots, Kyle Duggar is questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian Phillips is kind of filled in his spot. If you're saying they're both questionable and they're, if Duggar's starting, do you still feel comfortable rolling him out as a safety or defensive back? Or
I do. I mean, I don't know if I'd love it. If I have another option, he's probably a low end DB 2-3 for me this week. Okay.
And then for the Colts, Shaquille Leonard, Darius Leonard, whatever you want to call him.
Right.
What are your thoughts on him this week? Does he have the tackle upside versus this Patriots team, or do you think this Patriots offensive line can kind of give him fits?
Last I heard, he was going to be on a kind of a snap count. And if he's on a snap count, that has me worried. I have him currently as the LB 25 because of the fact that I think New England is going to stay short to intermediate and run the ball a lot, and that lines up with what Leonard does extremely well. I just worry that he sees a rotation with him, Franklin, EJ Speed, etc. And I have to temper expectations as a result. But the one thing I want to pay attention to is just his health and how he recovers, because going forward, he could easily be an LB1, top 6, top 5 linebacker the rest of the season. And that's what, just pay attention to his snap count and how healthy he looks, and he'll start to deliver.
All right, let's go here to the next matchup here. I'm looking, by the way, as I'm scrolling through all these matches, I'm like, man, when are we going to get to the 4 o'clock games? Because we've been talking about 1 o'clock. There are only two 4 o'clock games. That's ridiculous. Anyhow, let's go. Buffalo to Jets. Obviously, the big names for Buffalo: Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. I'm actually not as high on Gabriel David this week, just because Sauce Gardner should be lining up against him. So temper expectations.
He's going to be on Diggs, right?
Yeah, that's what, at least that's what they're saying, Jorge, is that they expect Sauce to line up with Diggs. Okay. And so just a couple hours ago, Field Yates put out that it's the matchup of the day that he wants to see. Diggs has 100 yards and a touchdown in 3 straight games. Gardner hasn't allowed more than 3 catches or 20 yards as the nearest defender in 5 straight games. In man coverage, Sauce is number 1 in yards allowed. He's number 1 in I had it all up right here.
I have adjusted my rankings on the fly.
Pass touchdowns allowed, number 1 in first downs allowed. He's allowed 2 first downs, forced incompletions, yards per snap allowed is 0.26. I still have Diggs as a wide receiver, low end 1. But what are you guys doing with Davis? Are you Davis or Diggs? Start sit. Les?
That's tough with the Sauce Gardner stats there. I'm starting both. I like them.
Got to choose one.
Oh, one or the other. Oh, Diggs. You got to go with your number 1.
I know you have.
I'll go with Davis.
Really? You would?
Yeah.
If you had a lineup right now and it was
if it's standard league, if it's non-PPR, yes. If I had only one spot for them, which I mean, if I have those guys, I'm going to start both of them every week. But I'm saying, if you're saying I can only start one, if you look at what Davis does, where if they can't go to Diggs, or it's going to be less likely they go to Diggs as much, I just think it's almost a sure he's going to catch a 40-yard touchdown pass. I mean, Josh Allen's going to eat on this Jets defense. I do believe that, whether it be Diggs. I think Knox is another really good play this week. Again, with Diggs kind of probably being at least, I don't think you can shut down Diggs, but you can slow him down by putting Gardner on him. If it's going to, again, for ceiling, I think Davis has a chance to just have a big game to where Diggs, it's going to be tough for him probably to have more than 70, 80 yards.
So just based off of that news that they're going to be flipping Gardner on the Diggs, I moved him down from 1 to 9. So I'm
Hey, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. We got a question here from Ryan H. Please pick 2 standard: Deion Jackson, Jamal Williams, Stevenson, Brian Robinson. I'd go middle 2, Stevenson and Jamal Williams. Anybody else?
Okay, Jackson and Stevenson. I like Jackson this week. I think it's his opportunity to show he can be a number 1.
Standard, I'd go Williams and Stevenson. If it was PPR, I would like Jackson and Stevenson.
All right, let's go here. Michael Bauer. If we need to, can we fire up Chase Claypool today?
Oh, gross.
I mean, if you need to, then you have to. Then
Depends what you got. Yeah.
Said
sure.
the new number 1 for the Bears. Yeah, I'll do it.
All right, there we go.
Well, according to Claypool, he's top three receiver. So, you get one of the top 3 receivers in the league.
Yeah,
maybe on TikTok. Man.
He wasn't a top 3 receiver or a top 2 receiver on his team.
The one thing I would say about that with Claypool is that we know that he's such a good red zone target that we could see him get a touchdown today. I think fairly, yeah.
And he's a good deep field receiver, right? Which something Fields has not had, and Fields did a great job in college of throwing, down the field passes. So maybe they at least take a couple of shots this week. I just don't know how much Claypool's going to play.
I got another question from Andrew on YouTube. Are either Akers or Chuba worth a stash? Are either of them worth a stash? I don't.
Hubbard, maybe.
Depends.
Akers,
no, I agree.
So go ahead, Les. You start, buddy.
I like Hubbard as a stash because of Foreman's injury history. But yeah, so I'd go with that.
My only take, and maybe this is, if you stash Akers and Akers comes out and actually has a productive game, does he carry more trade value than Chuba does? And is that worth even a stash? Is maybe he comes out and he actually gets 13 carries and breaks one off and gets 75 yards, and the person who has been monitored, I don't know. Is there more trade value in a name? I can't say that for certain. And it's the only reason I would stash either one of them is, more Akers, Chuba, because of exactly like you said, Les. Foreman's not exactly been the beacon of hell.
Got Dalton on Facebook here.
I can't see them going away from Foreman, though. I mean, last week the dude ran like his pants were on fire. 3 touchdowns and 118 yards. He's done that 2 times in a row. Why would you let go of a workhorse running back like that,
Well, no, he said if he's hurt.
He's saying for injury because he does have injury.
Yeah.
I got a question from Dalton over on Facebook. Would you go Jamal Williams for Detroit or Kenneth Walker for Seattle? Give me a Kenneth Walker. I can't get. Yeah.
Scored 19 points against this same defense a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Dalton, stay away from Jets defense this week. Yeah.
I'm excited to watch that matchup.
The place is going to be rocking, right? Like that stadium is going to be lit, which is the one thing that's cool.
Have they been traveling?
Touche.
Has Sauce been traveling to number 1s this season, or has he just been sticking to one side? I feel like he's.
I'm going to tell you, I honestly don't know that answer.
Okay.
I'm strictly just reading what.
It's been. They've talked about it on ESPN too. So I mean, I think the way it sounds like it's something new. So to your point, Jorge, he has not been doing that, and they're just like, we got this big matchup. And I mean, to be fair, we've talked about it. I think if you can take away Diggs, let's see what the Bills can do, because nobody's really been able to do that. And that is definitely like what I have a buddy who watched a lot of film, and he hates how the Bills are so dependent on Diggs. And he thinks that in the playoffs, that could be a problem for him if they face the right team.
Screaming into Twitter, basically, that they should have been doing that last week with Jair Alexander, and they just haven't done that. Because Jair was on Gabriel Davis most of last week, and he didn't do that much. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Keith, I know you got to run. Get ready for this Falcons game pretty soon. But one question here for you. In your conversation on Diggs and cash games, are you fading him and maybe going Hill or Hopkins for pay-up options?
I love Hopkins this week. I think 7,900. He should be priced with Hill, with Diggs. I mean, really, other than Jefferson this week, there's nobody I feel more confident about than Hopkins. But if you listen to the pod this week, we're really in on the running backs. There's a core of Walker, Stevenson, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the other one. I'll get it up in just a second. But you can do these running backs that have been getting a huge, like 20 to 25 touches each week. They're a focal part of the offense, and they're in that $6,000 range. And that allows you to take one of those receivers. And that's what I've been saying is take one of those receivers and then take a Terry McLaurin, a Tyler Boyd, Chris Godwin, these guys that are getting that 5,800 to 6,200 range, and then take a cheap defense. Either take a flyer like the Panthers at 2,300. You got the Colts who, everybody's talking about how the Pats are going to, the Colts have a good defense too, and Mac Jones has not been great. So that's not a bad option. I really like Seattle at 2,700 this week. And there's a ton of cheap tight end options. My favorite being Evan Ingram for Jacksonville versus the Raiders, who again is a focal part of the offense. And Tyler Higbee again at I think 36 or 3,700. Last time that these two teams are last year when these two teams faced, he got I think it was 12 targets, 8 receptions, and he's going to be low on because he's done nothing the last 2 weeks. But I think that's due to injuries.
All right, got the collector here says, "Hey Keith, you who the collector is?"
I actually don't. So tell me who you are, collector. It's probably one of my buddies, but I don't know who the collector is.
Fair enough. Let's go to this Washington, Minnesota game now here in our nation's capital.
Sounds like a good name for a movie, right? The
right?
Yeah.
Well, he was a character in the Marvel movies.
He was?
I was going to say, is it not in Guardians of the Galaxy? Is he?
He is. Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. All the
Jeff
weird stuff in the tanks. And
is it Jeff Goldblum? Hey, Jeff.
Benicio del Toro, I think. Let's see here. Okay, well, the collector's got some questions. He's collecting. He wants to collect some answers. What do you think of Bucks and Brady going? I don't know. What do you think of Brady and the Bucks going through a divorce? I have no idea.
I actually think that the Bucks have a chance to have a get right game this week. The Rams are a mess. I think they threw up the white flag by not making any trades. I thought it really told that they're like, this is not the season. The Rams have every year for the last 4 years made a big deal right at the trade deadline to make their team better. I think the fact that they didn't is kind of them throwing up a white flag on the season. The Bucks are in the NFC South, which is a good place to be because the Falcons are in first place, and that's probably not going to last. So I actually like them this week. I think Godwin is a great play this week. If you look at Cade Otton and Cameron Brate, they're two tight end options that are not bad. I would not touch Fournette because they can't run the ball, and that is something the Rams can do. And I don't hate Evans, but it's just they don't really have the time right now to get Evans these big plays that he needs. And that's why, what'd you say, Nate? I think it was just earlier that Godwin seemed like 35 targets the last 3 weeks, especially in daily fantasy at 6,200. You can't beat getting a guy that is going to see 10 to 12 targets each week. And that may be even more so against a good Rams pass rush.
Mm-hmm. That division is just awful. The NFC South is the Make-A-Wish Foundation of the NFL, man.
Hey, the AFC South's not much better.
Yes,
I'm about to say,
right, fair enough.
Go Texans.
Washington and Minnesota. Where were we? Antonio Gibson.
Trying to keep it professional.
I'm trying to avoid any negative talk of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So. Anyhow, Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, I think are your only viable starts here on Washington. For Washington. On IDP, for IDP rather, I actually like Jamin Davis this week just because he's probably going to be the only good linebacker that Washington has, which is saying something. Cameron Curl. On the flip side, Minnesota, Kirk Cousins, I think, is going to have a great week this week. You have the Cook. I think Madison falls into the end zone also. Jefferson obviously has the upside. For me, though, here's the thing. All the reports are coming out of TJ Hawkinson going to be heavily involved in this game. Nate, you brought it up earlier, his usage in the red zone, being a big target there. And how is that going to impact Adam Thielen, who's been Mr. End Zone reception guy for Kirk Cousins all these years? Man, if you had a bet on either Hawkinson or Thielen getting you a touchdown this week, who would you put your money on, Nate?
If I had to put money on it, I'm going to go with Adam Thielen because that's old reliable. But I don't think that it's a bad narrative to, if you're making a decision at tight end and think that Hawkinson could give you that floor because of a touchdown. But between the two, I'm going to lean Thielen.
All right, Keith is off to the Falcons game right now. Let's go for IDP purposes here.
Just quickly with Washington, do you think this is the last we've seen of Carson Wentz?
Yes.
You think he goes as a backup somewhere next year?
I have no idea where he goes next year.
Yeah.
He'll be a backup probably just because he's played as a starter, but yeah.
Look, the Commanders
He didn't do much more.
The Commanders, who may have a new name next year with the new owner, who knows what's going to happen here, are going to get a high draft pick. There are plenty of quarterbacks to pick from in this draft. They're not going to commit their future to Carson Wentz. Taylor Heineke is going to be just fine, serviceable, and by serviceable,
he's no problems. I don't know why people hate on Heineke. I think he's doing a decent job.
Because he's short, and people like stigmas about the short quarterbacks. He doesn't have a strong arm, and this, and that, and all he's doing is finding ways to get us wins and making at least the games a little bit more competitive, which is kind of honestly what at this point we're settling for. But obviously, we want more, and we're not going to get more with Carson Wentz going forward. So, yeah, I don't think, barring injury, I don't think you're going to see Carson Wentz playing for Washington. Yeah. Let's go IDP for the Vikings here, though. Nate, we may be torn on this. I don't know. But if you had to pick a defensive lineman, edge rusher for this Vikings team to have the better, more clear path to IDP relevance, would it be Danielle Hunter or Zadarius Smith this week? I think Hunter, but what would you think?
Well, I do too. It's Cornelius Lucas versus, Charles Leno. And Cornelius Lucas is much worse in pass pro than Leno. Will they move the two around? I doubt it, because they've kind of established that side that they want. Who would you choose at linebacker in terms of tackles? Do you think it's going to be Kendricks or Hicks?
Man, I'm rolling with Hicks this season. I just think he's just been playing really lights out. I think Kendricks, I think for upside tackle play fantasy points, I'm going with Hicks. I got to go with Hicks.
Me too.
I got one for y'all.
Go for it.
DeAndre Carter or Curtis Samuel?
Ooh.
I like Carter.
Half PPR.
I really like Carter. I mean, who's there to throw the ball to? You've got no Keenan Allen, no Josh, not Josh Palmer. Who's the other one?
Mike Williams.
No, Mike Williams.
Parham's out.
Parham's out. Williams out. I mean, Herbert, he slings the ball. I really like Carter. I mean, he's a sneaky DFS play. Yeah.
And not to mention with the linebackers for Minnesota patrolling the middle of the field and Harrison Smith patrolling the middle of the field, I don't think Curtis Samuel's going to be able to get, do the whole run and catch thing this week.
Right.
Let's go to now Jacksonville, Raiders, Jaguars. Who would have thought that the most disappointing part for the Las Vegas Raiders would be their passing game with Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow? I mean, it's just been atrocious. Josh Jacobs, hey, he's been playing fantastic. It's great. For the Jaguars, though, for offense, man, besides Travis Etienne, is there anybody else that you feel comfortable rolling out here, Jonathan?
Firstly, Jonathan, is it Jaguar or Jaguar?
Jaguar.
I've never understood this Jaguar. Where has the wire come from? Look at the letters.
Yeah. So I say
Look
Jaguar.
at the letters.
I say Jaguar, but anyway.
Yeah.
Important information
we're covering
here on Fantasy Improvement.
They are a British team now, so you've got to respect how we say it.
Exactly. There you go.
I would say Christian Kirk. He's a safe floor. He's not someone that I'm massively excited about, but this is a fairly good matchup for Lawrence and the passing attack. It's not a great defense. So yeah, I think Evan Ingram is he's a fine player at tight end. Keith mentioned him before, but yeah, I mean we saw what the Jags were doing last week with ETN. He is going to become pretty much the whole offense now, both on the ground and through the air.
A question here from Andrew: PPR for tight end, Hayden Hurst or Hunter Henry? Man. So here's the thing. I agree with you, Les, with Hurst for the receptions. But my concern is
he's busting my balls here. I'll tell you after. Go for it.
Okay.
I want to hear what you guys have to say.
I like the Henry touchdown upside, but you can't. You have to go off opportunity. So I'm going with Hayden Hurst here.
And Hunter Henry touchdown upside is all based off of like last year, because it sure as hell isn't this year so far.
I
in the
know.
red zone.
I know.
He's had one reception, no touchdowns on the red.
That's the one I'm looking at.
So we're in a league, and one of my buddies is deployed overseas, so I'm kind of just running his team for him if he can't get internet access. So I had to pick tight end. I made a bunch of changes. One of them was tight end, and I picked Hunter Henry over Hayden Hurst. And he's like, you can't, just because you're a Patriots fan, you can't pick the worst tight end. So I said, no, Henry's the better tight end. But
no, you would be mistaken.
Screw you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Andrew, if you want a more reliable source to run your team when you're not available, you can reach any one of us. You can actually reach my wife if you want. She's probably got a leg up on Dave.
Love it. For the Raiders here, you're obviously starting Devontae Adams for his upside versus Jacksonville.
Are you though? I mean, one target last week.
He's back to full practice now. He was ill last week. It's been full practice this week. So yeah, I don't have any worries about him.
No, I could tell he was ill. My fantasy roster showed it at one point.
Josh Jacobs is. What's the issue with Darren Waller? Has he been battling some type of injury all season long that he's just not producing? Okay, chronic injury.
He's out again.
All right, so then Hunter Renfrow, that's even Hunter Renfrow. That's kind of that's one of those probably Keith, if he was still on, would say that could be like a bargain play. But even then, I don't know. For defense, let's go here now, Nate. Blake Martinez for the Raiders. Signed a couple weeks ago. He didn't really do too much last week. I don't know whether that was rotation based or snap percentage based. But it's really the Divine Diablo show here for the Raiders, who Les, I think you had mentioned it earlier off air that Diablo has been dealing with a wrist and back injury heading into this week, but he got into full practice, I want to say Friday. Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen any reports that he should not be able to go. So if he's cleared to go, I think you start him. And what's great about Divine Diablo, for those who play in sleeper leagues, he's also defensive back eligible. So that actually helps when you have a tackle-heavy linebacker being thrown into your DB spot. Just FYI, a little strategy game within the game thing there. Max Crosby, I think, has a good opportunity this week. Chandler Jones has been this season. On the flip side for Jacksonville, who are you liking this week here, Nate?
I like to see the matchup of Josh Allen. As far as better matchups, Trayvon Walker has a better matchup, but he's been non-existent for the most part. He has 2 weeks of production. I think both linebackers are in store for big games. Foye Oluokun, Devin Lloyd, both potential, LB1s this week. And to that point, I have both in my top 10. Maybe that's a little crazy to put both of them in there because they could take from each other. But I feel like we're going to see a ton of run from Jacobs. And I do think that's going to lead a lot to more Oluokun than Lloyd. But I think both are great plays this week.
Man, the Jaguars just absolutely catfished us, didn't they? First 2 weeks, they were, playing lights out. Then they just remembered who they were.
Yep, he's a 35-year-old man not named Hillary, and that's what you get. But it's a good side. It's a positive catfish. They're going to be. I mean, realistically, think about it. You get T-Law, you get Evan Ingram, you get Christian Kirk, you get Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, and on the defensive side, Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, Devin Lloyd. Chad Muma, if we'll step in eventually. Andre Sisco, Rayshawn Jenkins, who I like this. Rayshawn Jenkins is going to have, I think, here's my predict. I'm going to say 7 tackles for Rayshawn Jenkins this week.
How about that? That's very specific of you.
Very specific. That is a prediction.
That's how they work.
That's how predictions work, Jorge. Yep.
All right, let's go to our next matchup. Have we hit 4 o'clock yet? Yes, we finally hit the 4 o'clock slate here. We got the Seahawks, we got the Cardinals. Let's go in reverse order here. Let's do some defense first, and we'll go into offense. Seahawks, I said his name last week in our IDP start article. I like Uchenna Nwosu again this week. I just feel like he's been the most productive pass rusher for the Seahawks. Last time he took on the Cardinals, he got you a sack. He got you close to 10 fantasy points. He got multiple pressures and tackles. So I just think he's been playing on a hot streak, and I think you can still roll with him this week, even against Kyler Murray, because I've seen him do it before.
Quick question. What is the tight end for the Cleveland Browns name?
David Njoku.
Okay. See, I'm just wondering if you go not go both ways, but if you say it the same for both. Dave, we know both ways. Because some people say Nwosu, you said Nwosu, and I get it, but I hear the announcers, even for the teams, say the Njoku, Nwosu.
Yeah, that's what I say. I say Njoku. Is it not?
It's
Njoku.
Njoku.
I say Njoku.
I say Nwosu. Uchenna Nwosu.
Well, is it Seahawks or Seahawks?
Jaguars. Yeah, the Jaguars.
Is it Falcons or Falcons? Which, by the way, I think Falcons is the best one. The breast. Exactly. The best English word pronunciation is aluminium as opposed to aluminum as a science.
Yeah,
Right.
I told
Okay.
Josh that coming out here.
Yeah, what the hell's that up with? That's stupid.
But it doesn't make sense that all of your every element has IUM. So why in American English is that the only one that's UM, not IUM?
Yeah, agree.
My guess is that there's something has happened with some kind of documentation and it's just kind of staged.
I love aluminium. Yeah. It's fantastic. I love it. All right, we got Ryan Weeds here from Club Fantasy.
No, exactly.
Can I start Queen? No. He wrote that was before Rokon was in town. That was a hell no. With Rokon.
Sorry. I'm getting reactive to the keep reading.
Okay. Or lean towards Nick Bolton. Yes. Nick Bolton.
He's my LB2 on the week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm right there with
my number 2. And Tremaine Edmonds, I moved after last week. I moved him up higher than I normally do. I worry that the Jets just won't be on the field that much with Tremaine. Yeah, Nick Bolton is.
Yeah, he's my one. He's my one this week. Yeah, so we're right there. Yeah, never Patrick Queen.
Not true. Yeah. Not true. Patrick Queen wasn't as bad. You see, it was the pass rush made him more relevant. He was leading every linebacker in blitzes, and there were more opportunities for splash plays and more opportunity for points that he probably didn't deserve. He's garbage, but he's no longer there. But I bet he plays 50% of the snaps this week, maybe 65.
Right. But definitely with Derrick Henry, Nick Bolton is the way to go here.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for tuning in on Facebook, Ryan. Where were we? We are Seahawks and Cardinals. Seahawks, Jordan Brooks. Ryan Neal has been playing pretty well at defensive back for the Seahawks. Let's go to the Cardinals on defense.
Just a quick IDP question, because in our staff league, I've got Jordan Brooks, and I wanted to bring in a different defensive back this week because I got Jesse Bates. I was looking at Ryan Neal, and then I was wondering if I've got Brooks, is that then kind of lowering the upside, kind of similar to when you're kind of offensive play, how you're kind of lowering your upside if you got a running back and a wide receiver from the same team.
So like if an IDP stack is not favorable versus favorable.
Yeah, like an IDP. Yeah, how do IDP stacks work like that? Are you kind of lowering your upside in a similar way to offensive players?
I like Jesse Bates in coverage this week more than the tackle upside for Arizona, or for Seattle, just because they don't have a traditional running game. The running game is Kyler Murray, and so I'm not really seeing somebody crowding the line of scrimmage and getting to the rushing attack and getting you those easy tackle numbers. Nate, what are your thoughts here? Ryan Neal or Jesse Bates?
If there's one reason to lean Ryan Neal, is that the Cardinals do one thing extremely well, is actually run a ton of plays. And they run, I want to have it in front of me. I wish I just could pull it up real quick, because
you mean their pace of play and like the actual
both. So the pace of play, the average distance of play, first down scored has all led to, as far as an offense, they average here. I'll pull it up real quick and tell you in terms of total plays, they are first by nearly by 30. So they have run 562 plays compared to the next highest, which is Philly at 539. So with that, though, they're in total yardage, they're like 10th, 12th. So they're not getting huge, big chunks of plays. They're just staying on the field, which helps elevate that tackle floor for people. So if you're going to stack a team, stacking Ryan Neal and Jordan Brooks would make sense because there's more opportunity for tackles. I like Jesse Bates too for exactly what you said, though, Jorge. And since Jonathan's not playing me this week, or you in this week, we can give him viable advice, which is you take Bates and I take Ryan Neal. So good luck.
And,
who do you like
Nate,
better?
Nate, I'm playing. I've just looked. I'm playing Jeremy. I'm third. He's
And
first,
he's in first.
You're second. So
second,
if I win, you go top. So we can work together
here. Oh, trust me, I knew that there was something in there.
Deshaun Elliott, I can see is available as well. I'm guessing. Will you go for him over either of those two?
Go ahead.
Where do I have him? Yeah, no, I'm a big Deshaun Elliott proponent. Where do I have him ranked? I have him as my DB3. So yeah, I would go Deshaun Elliott.
I have Deshaun Elliott in the top 10, so I'm going to lean Deshaun Elliott as well. And I have Ryan Neal 15. Yep. Well, no pressure on us now. So
yeah, exactly.
And Jeremy, if you're listening, you know that me and Jorge like Jonathan more than you. So
yeah, exactly. He's here. Jeremy, you're not tuning in on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, so shame on you. Keith Fleming, who was just here a few minutes ago, do you like Javon Holland in a bad weather game as your defensive back, or Richie Grant versus the Chargers? All right, so this is a very tough question for me personally, just because I love defensive backs who make big splash plays. And I don't think there's anyone coming out of the draft in recent years who does it better than Javon Holland. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it, bad weather game. Normally, free safety is always it's a tough one unless they're getting a lot of help in the run department. I will say but that being said, I will go Javon Holland just because he, at least last year, and I haven't looked up his stats for this year specifically, he, along with Brandon Jones, were used to blitz the rusher and play against the run a lot, even though he was still a free safety. I think they were both top 10 in pressures. So I think there's something to be said for Javon Holland. And even if he's not utilized in that manner, you mentioned the bad weather game, bad offense. I think the splash upside play here is for Javon.
Yeah, I agree with you right there too. So far on the season, it's proven that the Bears are susceptible in giving up a ton of points to more box safeties. Week 1, Hufanga, 35 points. Week 3, Jalen Petrie, 50 points. Week 6, Cameron Curl had 15 points. That's J-Ron Kearse had 25. They haven't allowed a ton of safeties to, free safeties to score a ton of points, but they have allowed both safeties in multiple weeks to score double-digit points. Jonathan Owens and Jalen Petrie both scored. They scored 67 points combined. There's upside for that, especially more so than the Chargers have been very stingy against opposing defensive backs overall. So I would lean Javon Holland, and just like you said too, the upside for a big play is there.
We got a question here from Matt. Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Mooney? CEH is one of my sits of the week, so yeah. Playing in the wind,
and that's one of the things too, guys. Mooney with Claypool, Mooney moves to the outside where he's more comfortable, but that also means he probably sees more impact with that wind. Dude, I know CEH is not a great play, but CEH, remember what I was saying 2 weeks ago with Pacheco, is that Pacheco will get the opportunities probably between the 20s, but when it gets to crunch time, what do we see? We saw CEH come in when there was more goal line, red zone work, some of the more important drives. I think there's a little more trust in CEH still.
Yeah, give me CEH. Well, I think Mooney's gone with the wind. He's been number one receiver over there forever. And what's he done? Has he had any big games? What's the most he's got? Like maybe 80 yards, no touchdowns.
I swear Dave has some kind of platform where he just says the person's name and it pops up some kind of punny little thing, and it's
Got
in
like
his
an auto
ear.
generator on the next screen.
Exactly, I know. Les said it's 18-mile-an-hour winds. By the way, meteorologist Les tuning in.
Les Maynard. Yep, exactly. You know, and let's go back a couple weeks ago. Actually, the Chiefs. You know, that morning they came out and said that Pacheco was going to be running with the ones. Yet for the rest of the game, after that one series, it was CEH getting the opportunity. So, yeah, it's hard, but it's. I think it's the right call. You keep giving us hard questions. That's what we're here for, Matt. We're here to get you answer the hard questions so that you don't make the bad decisions, and we can get you a victory each and every week here.
We can make the bad decision for you, so you can say, "Oh, those
You
guys
don't
are
want-
idiots."
Or you got someone to
I lost
blame
because those
instead of
five
rant
fools.
Yep, stupid
Exactly.
Les.
Yeah, exactly. Les is like, I just got back here. What are you talking about?
Nate's calling me stupid. What's going on?
What did I do?
I am not calling a Marine stupid. Trust me. I ain't the smartest person in the world, but I know one thing. You don't do that.
You don't tug on Superman's cape, and you don't do anything to disrespect the boys' service. Exactly. Okay, sticking on
We have
offense.
good advice here, like sit T. Higgins, you know.
Right, exactly. Yeah, fade the Bengals offense.
All right.
As soon as I saw T going off that game, like I'm going to hear about this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Gino, Kenneth Walker, DK, Lockett, I think are all good plays here. Cardinals, Kyler, obviously, and D Hop, Ertz. I like it. Tight end. Any faith in Eno Benjamin this week, guys?
Yeah.
Is
Is
Connor playing?
Connor? Yeah, I think I seen Connor's playing.
I don't think Connor plays much though. That's my only reason I'm okay with Eno is I think Connor's a limited play per my 2 cents.
And even before the injury, I mean, he was in PPR leagues. It's not as if he was doing that much, but he was still seeing targets. He sort of it was like a sort of Chase Edmonds light role. So yeah, I mean for the bye week, chaos that we have and the amount of injuries, he's a desperation flex. But yeah,
Ertz or Isaiah Likely?
Give me likely.
Less.
I'm staring at that bubble because likely.
I
think I'm going Ertz there.
Okay.
Matt, I would actually say it depends on your matchup, on your opponent, and what you're doing. Because Ertz, I think, has that floor. Nah, I like likely. I'm sorry.
I like that logic that we're going there. Like, if you need the consistency, maybe go for Ertz. If you're hoping for the upside play, go for Likely. You're in 6 leagues. Yeah, that'll do it. We can empathize there, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go here to our next.
I had to cut down to 6 leagues this year. Last year I was in like 14. It was just too much. Like, Sunday mornings were a mess.
Yeah, we don't.
How many are you guys in?
I'm in 20.
Holy crap! Okay,
Shit.
With best ball or with?
I'm gonna meet
20 and 20
real
and
leagues or
yeah, real leagues. Yeah.
okay. So you have best ball on top of that?
Yeah.
Holy crap, dude! I don't know how you do that.
And I tried to cut down this year. I'm like, we'll get into that in the offseason. Let's go to the 4:25 game. Bucks, Rams, Stafford or Brady, Les? If you had to pick one, who are you rolling out there with?
I'm going with Brady. He's got his weapons back. Oh, he's got his weapons, and I'm just not high on Stafford at all. I think Nate said earlier, or Keith, other than Cooper Kupp, they're just not getting it together. So,
yeah, this Rams offense went from the penthouse to the outhouse in a minute, didn't they? I mean, they didn't really change too much, did they? They've got most of their weapons, excluding OBJ. I don't know. Yeah, weird.
I mean, Allen Robinson.
They don't have Andrew Whitworth protecting the blind side of
It is, yeah. And now I think Joe Notebook is even banged up too. And
Is he not playing this week?
last I saw, let me check and see and let you guys keep talking. I'll interrupt sometime whenever I find it.
Well, they can't. They're struggling to run the ball as well. I mean, it's
no bueno.
No Notebook. It's going to be an ugly game for Stafford, I think, which might mean even more opportunity for Cooper Kupp somehow. I don't know if that's possible. I don't think math would allow that, but let's hope he's healthy, right? That ankle ain't banged up.
So it's so obviously you're starting Godwin and Mike Evans, and I don't know if it's obviously you're starting Leonard Fournette, but chances are you are starting Leonard Fournette, but you should probably temper your expectations here. Unless this passing game starts getting it going and then freeing up the line of scrimmage for Fournette to get off some big plays here. On the flip side, you have Cooper Kupp, and that's pretty much the only Ram offensive player I feel comfortable with. Even Tyler Higbee, I think the Broncos are pretty good at limiting tight end production. So, excuse me, I said the Broncos. I meant the Buccaneers are good at limiting tight end production. For IDP, I'm bummed that you said Notebook is not going to be there, because that kind of deflates my take on Joe Troyenka, who Notebook has allowed 22 pressures, 5 sacks, and 8 QB hits on the season.
Right.
Out of all the offensive lineman positions, left tackle, not just Notebook, but anybody else who's been playing at left tackle this season, he has been, that position has been allowing the most pressure. So left tackle is their ultimate Achilles heel here. So I even though No Boom is not going to be playing, I don't think they could throw anybody else back there. I don't think he's.
So that's what they've done is they moved Alaric Jackson from guard to tackle, and I was reading about him to see for that Joe Tryon matchup, and a lot of Rams Twitter and a lot of the beat writers for LA say that he has stepped in and has looked phenomenal. Like he's going to be their starting left tackle even going forward. I think he allowed 1 pressure last week. He's just been really good. And so that, because I was high on Tryon and I wanted to go that direction, and I thought, okay, gotta be back, because like you said, that left side of that line is so porous. But reading what I've read, I'll pay attention to that matchup this week, and we'll see if this Alaric Jackson is actually something worth paying attention to. Because if that's the case, if he can protect Stafford's blind side, I think that has to move up Allen Robinson just a little bit. Probably has to help support Cooper Kupp. You don't need that. That's stupid, Nate. What am I talking about? You don't need anybody to support Cooper Kupp. But Allen Robinson could see a little bit of an uptick if he has more time to throw. Crazy analysis, or you guys think that makes sense?
I mean, no. I mean, give him all the protection in the world he needs. They need somebody besides Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is still banged up for that ankle injury from a couple weeks ago. So if they can't protect him, I could see Allen Robinson getting a lot more play here. Mm-hmm. IDP, Nate, why don't we take us around? We already covered IDP for the Buccaneers. No, we did not. So Tranka,
maybe
Tranka, but Devin White,
Levante David,
Mike Edwards.
I like Keanu Neal as well. I think both of the safeties I think they'll flip flop. Some will play in the box, some will go deep, and I think that could lead to a decent tackle. I don't know who's going to see the upside of having to try to do something with Cooper Kupp. It might just be divvied up around all of them, I think, personally. Rams side, Jorge, let me ask you a question. Outside of Aaron Donald, we don't believe Leonard Floyd, after last week's blow up, is here to stay, correct? Him and Tristan Wirfs will be just a bad matchup.
Yeah.
We're starting Bobby Wagner. What do you do with Ernest Jones?
I'm not doing anything with Ernest Jones.
I can't either, man. I can't. That's all I got for him.
All right. I've got a question here from Matt again. Y'all think Van Jefferson will start doing something? Well, he better, because they need him to do something better. He was always, when he was healthy and the Rams were loaded last year, he was their deep threat. He was their quote unquote Deshaun Jackson, especially after they got rid of Deshaun Jackson. Can he do something more than that? I hope so. The last time we saw him play, I want to say it was the Super Bowl. And if you look back to the Super Bowl, he was when OBJ went out, Stafford was looking his way nonstop until finally he realized, hey, Van Jefferson's not catching the ball. Let me go back to Cooper Kupp. And then we all saw what happened there. Really hard to project where we see Van Jefferson, at least where I see Van Jefferson going this week. But, it could be an instance that if things stay the same for Allen Robinson, then by default, Van Jefferson is going to have to start moving up people's rankings just because of that fact.
If he stays in LA, he better get used to asking the question, would you like that animal style or fries? And move on.
Okay. I'm glad you
don't get it. None of this animal style crap. All right.
Okay? I don't think In-N-Out's that great personally.
I just learned what this was. On Friday.
Jonathan has no clue. Les, do you know In-N-Out? Been there?
I wasn't impressed. I had the one in Vegas. I don't know.
Me too.
Maybe I was too drunk or not drunk enough, but I wasn't a fan.
It's just decent fast food. It's not meant to be like the best burger, but people overhype it. People make it like it's a big deal.
We have Five Guys over here, and I think that blows In-N-Out out the water.
Yeah, but you need a second mortgage to order extra sides at Five Guys. What is it, like $18 a burger?
It is expensive.
12 for a regular. Yeah,
well, you're paying Five Guys. They got to divvy it up.
That's right. All right, let's go to Sunday Night Football. 2 more matchups here to go through. Kansas City, Tennessee. Aside from Derrick Henry for the Titans on offense, is there anybody? Am I going blank here? Malik Willis, is he going to play this week? Is Tannehill going to play?
It looks like it.
Yeah, Tannehill traveled. So
okay. So besides Derrick Henry, anybody? No? Bueller? Nope, that's what I thought. Kansas City, obviously Mahomes, Kelsey, the best 1-2 stack in all of football. Look, I have to say it because they made the trade for him, Kadarius Toney, on a bye week. Does he get up to speed enough? Does he get you 50 yards at least? Less? Do you think he gets you 50 yards or more?
I was just looking at his status. Yeah, they say he's slated to play. I wouldn't start him. Coming off the hamstring, new team, all the other weapons there. MVS is playing well. Harbin's playing well. So is Juju. And like you said, you got Kelsey. I'd be looking for better options.
Nate, are you in on Juju Smith-Schuster giving his performance in recent weeks? Or are you still kind of worried about him?
No, I'm fine with where you probably have him. It's probably as a flex play, maybe as a wide receiver 3. I think the upside is always there for him just to absolutely crush, just given the offense. And I think that, with Kadarius, don't be shocked to see him, he'll be a special teams immediate plug and play. I think I said that 2 weeks ago or last week, that I think even for rest of the season, he'll have more punt and kick returns than he'll have receptions for the team. But I think that they're listening to some of the beat writers and Chiefs talk, is that they do have packages set up for him in the red zone. Some, jet sweep packages, some bubble screens, something to get him involved. So it wouldn't shock me at all if he gets in the end zone, which is going to be over hyperinflation. So if you have him in a non-dynasty format and he does pull off one of those plays, might be a good sell high opportunity for people thinking he's going to be more heavily involved.
Good call. For IDP, Nick Bolton, L'Jarius Sneed, yeah.
No, not really as much, man. I don't think that he's more productive in the slot when he can blitz. They have these pressures they call the coffee house blitzes, and Spags does it a lot, where like the linebacker or the safety or the corner will look like they're going to blitz and then kind of back off to try to get Tannehill or Malik Wilson in the situation of what they're prepping for, and then blitz. And I don't think Snead's going to do that because I think he's going to be lined up outside. I don't think they're going to move him inside. I think he's going to miss out on some tackles. I moved him down as a mid DB2 instead of a DB1 like he's been all year.
I got a start sit with Juju or Mac Hollins as wide receiver 3.
Juju.
I'm going Juju there. Yeah.
All right. Let's go where our last game of the week, Baltimore at New Orleans. I think we've talked up Isaiah Likely at tight end enough. I think it's more than likely that we've done that. As far as anybody else, Yeah, thank you. It was bad. It was not the greatest I've ever done. I've done better.
I
I
like
apologize.
it. I'm proud of you.
Thank you for admitting it, or the actual joke. Okay,
The joke.
That's-
The joke. Yeah.
so
Keep
for
me calm.
Baltimore, Gus Edwards out is doubtful, so he's probably out.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson. So Lamar Jackson, Isaiah Likely, Devin Duvernay. Was Rashad Bateman out for the rest of the year? Is he somebody who's flex worthy? Do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, there's really not that many options. Trouble is, it's just such a run-first team that there's going to be no consistency there. I'm okay with him as a wide receiver 2 or 3, but that's the extent of it.
And then on the flip side, and then for Baltimore, IDP, Geno Stone and Hollywood Titan. We had him on Shoot the Gap. He's one of our analysts on Shoot the Gap, our IDP podcast. He brought up Geno Stone coming in at free safety, but he's actually been playing a lot everywhere, to be honest with you. So he's being very viable. So I could definitely see him as a start this week for fantasy football managers and IDP leagues. Nate, for the Ravens, you mentioned Roquan Smith likely on a snap count, just getting him acclimated to everything. Anybody else for Baltimore that's jumping out to you? Maybe JPP or not even that, or
maybe he's been up and down. I love me some Odafe, but I think the matchup against this Saints offensive line is a little more challenging. I'll tell you, if you have to start a safety, like you said, Geno Stone, Chuck Clark's back. I like both of them too, in an opportunity that we'll see an unknown type of offense run by New Orleans, as far as it's Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, and Taysom Hill, which I hate, but it is what it is. What do we think of the Alvin Kamara tape coming out? Was that the worst video recording? Was that the Sasquatch video recorder that happened to catch that on tape?
Yeah, I didn't. I'm assuming you're referring to the fact that it was hard to see.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
they can read if you're cheating at the table by figuring out what the letters on the coins that you play say, but they can't get a good video of Alvin Kamara beating somebody up. I don't get it.
That was a bit weird.
So
I think,
Baltimore. Sorry, go.
No, I was saying, I think, they play Monday night, and I think that's going to, I wonder how much that's going to be the talk in the pregame is about that video being released. And, with, you see what's going on with Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn. I mean, once the media gets a hold of something, I mean, he might be facing a quicker suspension than we thought. I don't know. Definitely keeping eyes on that.
I'm surprised they let him play this year. I mean, you remember a few years ago with Zeke and that whole legal mess?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they threw 8 games at him in a minute, whereas this guy clearly beat someone up, and we're okay with it?
I guess
it's because of when legal proceedings have actually happened compared to So I think if the legal proceedings had happened over the summer, then there would have been a suspension. So I mean, in terms of a suspension, I guess it's likely to be next year rather than any time soon.
Agreed.
Fair enough.
And then for excuse me, New Orleans, Kamara, Olave. And then Taysom Hill, you mentioned that. For IDP, Werner, Demario Davis. I'm actually lower on Cameron Jordan this week. I just feel like the offensive tackles for Baltimore are just really, really good at stopping or not allowing pressure. So I definitely would temper expectations for Cameron Jordan. Anybody else here? Chauncey Gardner? No. Who else was thinking?
Well, yeah. If Chauncey Gardner was with New Orleans, that was
I know.
They tell you what about a bad screw up on their behalf, huh? Man,
yeah.
There's so many. I will say that again. I hate recommending corners, but I get the feeling that Paulson Adebo is going to get absolutely just peppered with targets. By peppered with targets, I mean the most targets of anybody on the field, because I don't think anybody gets peppered with targets when you're facing Lamar Jackson because, they're limited. But he is a heavily targeted corner. He's not good. That's probably why. And that's probably Devin Duvernay. But I've watched Demarcus Robinson just have those huge games for the Chiefs in the past where he just comes out of nowhere and puts up, 4 catches for $130 and 2 scores. And it wouldn't shock me to see him have one of those kind of weeks too, but nothing else IDP, man.
All right.
Someone's talking about Baltimore, the show The Wire. People were raving about it. Is it that good? Anyone seen it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is?
Oh, yeah.
What's it about?
Basically the drug scene in the Baltimore drug scene.
Mm-hmm.
But it's considered one of the best of all times.
They have a
I
new
got it.
show out. Did you see that one, Les? The We Own the City.
I started it, didn't follow through with it.
Okay, I did the same thing. I probably watched about 5 episodes, and everybody that watched The Wire said loves it because, or at least most of the people that watch Wire, because there's same characters or there's same. I don't know if it's same actors that are playing different roles or different actors playing the same role. Well, I don't know what that is.
It's same actors and actresses playing different characters.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, all right then. So yes, go watch The Wire. It's awesome television. And with that, it's going to wrap us up here for our pregame show for Week 9. Folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for your support here at Fantasy and Frames. Thanks for following us on all the social media channels, going to fantasyandframes.com, reading our articles, seeing our rankings, and helping. And thanks for letting us help you guide you to a championship this year and a victory this week. And so for Dave from Connect Go, for Les, for Jonathan, for Nate, I'm Jorge. You all have a great Week 9. See you next week.